how do you think organizations can continue to sustain that pace if not fast? How do you see that? What are the challenges that organizations can go through while maintaining that sustainable pace?
Um, in if I may use like Scrum itself, because a lot of people already know it.
Correct.
Definition of done would be the central point. And I like to hammer organization a lot. How is the quality? How is your definition of done? Are you religiously following your definition of done?
Leadership support is vital for bringing this change, right? So what specific behavior or traits should leaders exhibit to foster an agile culture and encourage experimentation in large enterprises?
Yes. From my observation, this may be case by case, but in cases that I've been in, the people does not resist with the approaches. They usually resist with how contradictory is the measurement that's applied for them.
Welcome to another insightful episode of the podcast by Agile Coaching Roundtable ACRT. Today, we are going to tap upon enterprise agility, exploring how organizations tackle changes, accountability, and customer centricity and navigate their challenges. For today's episode, we have Joshua Partogi, a seasoned professional Scrum trainer, visual facilitator, life coach, public speaker, and a content creator. With a passion for creating more human work environments, Joshua aims to empower individuals to their true potential, believing in their ability to become their best selves. If you want to learn Scrum in a fun way, check out his YouTube channel, The Agile Comedy Show. And if you want to learn Scrum in a serious way, check out his other channel, Scrum Master in Black. Join us as we explore the traits defining agile organizations, the factors behind choosing frameworks, and the critical role of leadership in fostering an agile culture within large enterprises. So without further delay, let's dive right in.
All right. Welcome, Joshua, to the podcast by Agile Coaching Roundtable. It's a great pleasure and honor to have you on our show. And as we were speaking before this podcast recording, so we are your biggest fans, and we have been.
I'm feeling under pressure now.
No, not at all. In fact, we should be feeling that pressure that we got an opportunity to share this space with you, and we really mean it when we say that we are your fans. As I mentioned that your videos were the first ones that we came across, and we literally could relate and learn so much from your videos. So thank you so much for coming over and doing this podcast with us.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Okay, so today we want to have a conversation with you on the enterprise agility. So the reason why we chose this topic is, so honestly, we were just thinking, we were having two minds, whether we should speak about the product management or whether we should speak about the enterprise agility. But I know for the fact that now with your new role, if I may say so, that agile comedian, so you're touching upon the real agility or enterprise agility topics, right? So we thought it would be a great opportunity to have a conversation around the same. So to begin with, maybe if you can just explain what do you mean by enterprise agility for our audiences who are not aware about this concept.
Okay, thank you. So I first would describe agility as a noun. It's a capability of the organization, right? I'm quite mindful not to use the term agile in any engagement I'm in, because how easily misinterpreted agile means to many different people. And now what I am seeing, I think in the past 2 or 3 years, we're flooded the market, the job market, on LinkedIn, we're flooded with people who label themselves as agile this, agile that, agile HR, agile marketing, agile business analyst. And quite often, they just cherry pick what feels good for them. So agile means fast. So if I say agile marketing, it's a faster way to market your product. And quite often, because the term they use is cherry picked and it's really narrow oriented, they're not looking at the bigger picture, right? So we are currently, I would say, this is my personal observation, we are in a state where many people in the market are reintroducing silo, even though that's not what the agile movement wants to bring, because what the agile movement emphasizes, it's about collaboration, cross-functional team. But by having those kind of siloed, narrow-oriented terminology like agile marketing, agile sales, agile HR, nothing really changes. And quite often I hear people that they're feeling more under pressure now ever since the company introduced agile, which is it contradicts with the movement, what the Agile Manifesto signatories brought in. Now, when I say agility, now it's not really about a method or methodology or framework, but it's about capability. So those frameworks, let's say like Scrum or maybe tools, I can't really describe what Kanban is. There's two conflicting ideas about Kanban. I think there's a school of thought, like the pro Kanban said that Kanban is a strategy, and then there's a Lean Kanban University who said that Kanban is something else, and they don't want to be called as a framework. Yes, so those things like Scrum, Kanban, or maybe DevOps, that can help you increase your agility, but it may also slow you down. And when I said enterprise, it's a holistic level. I think in the early days of Agile movement is just taking a snapshot of what the software development should be, because that's what the manifesto for Agile software development is. It's a snapshot how software development should be. So now when I say enterprise agility, so let's scale this to enterprise level. It's not about a method, about your capability, like the whole organization capability to capture opportunities in the market and turn it into value for the company and value for customers. But at the same time, I think this is what a lot of companies are struggling with, maintaining their brand image and also the quality of the product. If I may choose an example, this is quite a publicly known example. Boeing, for example. I'm not sure if you have watched the documentary movie on Netflix. There was a really interesting statement from one of the interviewee in that documentary. I forgot it was a male or female, but the interviewee said that Boeing now changed from an engineering-driven company into a sales-driven company, and they just want to deliver things fast. And I'm not sure if you've watched the documentary, but the hack in the hardware, they hack it through software. So I think like engineering wise, the hardware would bring the nose of the plane up. So they kind of hack it through software to bring the nose down automatically. And the two crashes that happened with Boeing 737 MAX is because the pilot was panicked. What happened? Why did the plane like just automatically like lowered its notes, right? So that was like a dirty hack, and they're just focused on like fast speed. So these days I'm quite mindful not to use the term agile just like randomly. Like if the person that I'm interacting with, I've only known them like for like a short encounter, let's say a senior leader in a company, I've only known them like for a few weeks, like I would avoid using that. So agility is like the whole organization capability to deliver value, to capture opportunities, but at the same time maintain your brand image and quality, because you can be fast but you're sacrificing quality, and that might be bad for your business, for your company. And sometimes maybe going fast doesn't really lead you to success. Maybe just like having that sustainable pace can make you really successful. If I may use an example, what
Yes,
happened with Apple, it's really interesting, right? When compared to Google, Microsoft, and Amazon, and Facebook also, Meta, if I may use, they went on a hiring spree during the pandemic. But Apple just like take like a low down approach, like steady, sustainable, which I think is really good because they also didn't lay off a lot of people this year when compared to, let's say, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Facebook. So I like to use that example. Maybe like going fast does not necessarily lead you to failure. All right, maybe sustainable pace is good because then people will trust you more. Like you're not just ramping up like low quality products, and because it's a holistic approach, that means there needs to be alignment between organization, and there needs to be shared understanding. And this is what I've been emphasizing, especially during the pandemic with my clients. There needs to be a shared understanding, because let's say sales department have their own interpretation about agile. It's fast the sales, I'm getting a client, but then the kind of sales that, let's say, IT is doing it's really bad, and they're under pressure. They're working overtime, right? So that's not good. Like if sales looks agile, but then you're sacrificing IT, and then down the line you blame IT for not delivering fast. So this needs to be orchestrated well. It needs to be looked at holistically. Yeah.
I think Joshua, to begin with, I think there was definitely a myth buster in the conversation, saying that if we are following any frameworks, don't expect things to go or maybe work as per your assumption. Maybe it might slow you down as well. It's not a guarantee that it might help you. Maybe again I'm mindful of using that word fast. It might not be the right word, helping you move faster. But yeah, that's again a conversation that has set the tone for this podcast episode. And since you were talking about it's agility, or maybe agile is not about moving fast. I mean, how do you think organizations can continue to sustain that pace if not fast? How do you see that? What are the challenges that organizations can go through while maintaining that sustainable pace?
If I may use like Scrum itself, because a lot of people already know it.
correct.
Definition of done would be the central point, and I like to hammer organization a lot. How is the quality? How is your definition of done? Are you religiously following your definition of done? And I often engage senior leaders in the organization. It's okay, and I like to bring like real life examples also, depending on what industry is my client in. So if they're from a bank, I would like to use example from a big bank who did not end up so well. If they're from insurance, I use examples from insurance company that did not end up so well. So I like to give them those kind of examples. And sometimes they feel, oh yeah, you're right. Like we're not that bad. Like we don't have to be in FOMO just because like everyone is delivering something like new and revolutionary. It doesn't mean we need to follow them as well. I think like following your quality standards, be mindful, like not just focusing on fast. And I'm going to be open to your audience here, and I'm happy to be transparent about this. If you look in the school of thoughts of Scrum, actually even the co-founders have conflicting school of thoughts. If you look at the Jeff Sutherland school of thoughts, the Scrum Inc., he released a book about deliver twice more in half the time, right? And like your audience should ask, like, or the people who read that book should ask, like, how does the other half of the Scrum co-founder think? Like, Ken Schwaber does not want to involve in that. And a lot of literatures, a lot of blog posts he wrote are mainly actually concentrated on quality, sustainable. So sometimes I like to joke around when people like to, if I can use the term, like bash Scrum. So sometimes I like to ask, what school of thoughts are you following? Because they may be true, but there's also the other side of the coin. There's another school of thoughts.
Yes. And I think just to put across, maybe again, there is a perspective behind each of the thoughts that is, and we should be accepting it, or maybe we should respect those thoughts, I believe.
Yeah. And I've been following their interaction, Jeff and Ken, for quite a long time. A lot of things that does not go into Scrum Guide is actually their conflicting thoughts. So they leave that out blurred and then leave people have their own interpretation. But sometimes it's not really helpful if I'm in a position of like coaching organization to, let's say, embrace Scrum. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the same thing, that I mean, in my head I was thinking that if I have to look as a Scrum practitioner who is a beginner, just an example. So I was just thinking, if they are having the conflict of thoughts, maybe they would have avoided those topics, and they have written where they came into on a common ground, and all those things they have covered in the Scrum Guide. And I felt that, I mean, even if as a beginner, if you start just following what is mentioned in the Scrum to start with, when we talk about that shoe bhari ways of implementing Scrum, right? So even if you start with shoe level of implementing Scrum and avoiding the conflicting ideas or thoughts, even then we would say we have landed somewhere than what we were earlier in our traditional practices and so on. So maybe as a beginner, at least we should start with whatever they agreed upon and came on a common grounds, and they have put in the Scrum Guide, and then maybe we can move ahead. And then once we mature, or maybe move into high level or re-level, is when we can think, okay, was this really right, or maybe was this something we need to think about it, or how we need to proceed.
Yes.
Is it the understanding correct? What do you think about this?
Yes, I'm quite mindful about this. Sometimes it may lead an individual like to be quote unquote dogmatic if they like to stay on the one lane of school of thoughts. But sometimes it can be safer also because then you won't be confused, right? Because you have like one lane, you're not mixing a lot of things. I agree with you. See which one works. And
Exactly.
along the way, you might actually find this doesn't feel right, this school of thought. Maybe I'm going to look into another one. Because I had engagement several times with clients, and I give them that open choice. And it's better to be transparent about it and like just treat them as adults, let them choose their school of thoughts. And I have learned not to be attached to any outcome. If that's their choice, go with that, and let's see. If it works, that's great. You should celebrate it, because that's what you want at the end of the day. You want them, the organization, to be successful, not just to stay or prescribe certain school of thoughts.
Yes, and since you spoke about not attaching to the outcome, right? When you go to the organizations and you give them both the perspective, I also have a similar thought process, and this is what I'm just trying to validate my understanding. So, few months back, I did write a post about agile coaches or agile practitioners, basically not attaching themselves to the outcome, just help them help teams or organizations in realizing their potential in the process, or maybe in the process of doing that. When I say process, not the typical process, but in the process of doing what they are trying to achieve, and not to attach to the outcome, because when we attach ourselves, we become biased. I mean, we try to find out our own solutions and try to give the rational or convince others. But then I did get a mixed sort of reactions. I mean, there were who's who of so-called agile industry, and they started like, how can you say that you should not attach to the outcome, and in that case you're just preaching it or being philosophical and all, and so on. So I wanted to understand your perspective. Why do you say that we should not attach to the outcome?
I would say the outcome I'm saying here is whatever tools or framework they're using. We shouldn't be attached to that. For example, let's say they may end up, wow, this like starting bare bones with Scrum, for example, is too hard. Like we're at enterprise. What are other options at enterprise level? Let's use SAFe. So if you're not attached to those outcome, okay, let's use it. Let's see how it works. Actually, I experienced that, and interestingly, I didn't have any judgment. I actually encouraged them. Okay, let's do it as described in SAFe Guide, for example. Let's do it, but do it right, not just like doing it because everyone else is doing it, every large companies are doing it. Still live with the principles. We're delivering quality product. At the end of the day, these are just approaches, and approaches come and go. If we look like back to 10 years ago, there's more and more approaches or frameworks or tools that's popping up like every month, I would say, right? So approaches come and go. Just focus on the principles, right? And interestingly, at the end of the day, when they set this, when they look at it and when they want to implement it, they actually get a lot of they got a lot of resistance from underneath. A lot of people disagree. And interestingly, this organization, they really live the agile principles, so they didn't continue pushing it, and instead, okay, let's craft our own approaches. Let's start with the bare bone. And interestingly, 2 years later, I'm still working with them until today. They come up with their own, and they were quite happy because it's fit for purpose. It's fit according to their context, and it was built ground up. Because it was built ground up, people own the process. People are engaged with those techniques or approaches, right? And they focus more on capabilities. They don't just send people to training like to get certified, but you know, what kind of capability do we want our people to have, so this process can go smoothly. So they look at like coaching capabilities, facilitation capabilities, engineering practices capabilities. So they focus on the capabilities. And I'm happy, not because they didn't use SAFe, but because they discovered their own and make it themselves. And interestingly, they're quite mindful not to kind of share it with the world. Otherwise, people might have misinterpretation. But at least they own it. And along the way, they have this culture of not afraid of tweaking their organization structure, their approaches, because they started with building from the ground up. So the common conversation that we have is not, can we do this in X framework? Can we do that in X framework? The conversation now shifted towards, let's try it out. And they literally like see sprint as a container to make a small failure, which I'm really glad about, because now they have discovered that's the purpose of Scrum. So let's try it out. Let's see if it works. Let's list down what data do we want to look at as an indicator whether we are progressing or whether we're moving backwards, and just drop these approaches forward. And they have like multiple cadence. They have 2 weeks cadence to make experiments, 1 month cadence, and 3 months cadence. But interestingly, like the longest cadence usually is related with strategy. They use a 3 months cadence. So that's what I meant by not being attached to certain outcome. It may be like something else. They may discover their own. It's something they're proud of. And I think that's already great. And if they're becoming better, I think we have done a good job, regardless whether maybe like theory-wise it's not perfect, but if they're getting better, that's great.
Yeah. I think it's like more towards doing something which is not perfectly aligned to implementing it by the book or implementing it by the way it has been defined as a process. Maybe it's like from the context point of view, what fits in terms of the example that you shared. They might have thought a lot about it, what is perfectly, that we want to maybe achieve, or what is us for, for as an organization or as a team, what will serve us best at the moment in terms of the context that we are. That might be the approach for them.
Yes. And interestingly, even though they don't use, let's say, Scrum terminologies like on daily basis, but it's actually quite like Scrums. So the Scrum Masters, it's actually their internal leaders who are serving the people, and now like the product owner, like they really level it up, someone who's accountable with the value of the product. And interestingly, it took them around 7 years, because I had a conversation with the CEO who said, okay, tell me about this product owner, who should they be? And I just explained to them. And especially now with the change in Scrum Guide, it's really interesting because product owner is an accountability. It's not a job title or a roles. And I just said that when you're talking about accountability, this is like someone who will die on the hill. Like being accountable literally means that you can delegate the responsibility, but someone who's accountable is someone who's going to die on the hill. In the case of product owner, it's they're the one who will die on the hill for the value of the product. Regardless what's the job title you call it in your organization, it doesn't matter, but who will die on the hill for this product? And then suddenly the CXO said, wow, we shouldn't just choose random people to be the product owner then. Yep, I said. And
Wow.
they really select someone who they really trust, right? And it communicated really well down below, because now people, like the engineers, the team members, they really respect the decision of the product owner, because now it's a common term. oh, that guy will die on the hill for this product. Let's respect that guy, their decision, and we'll see at the end of like the cadence, like at the end of the sprint, perhaps, or maybe like every month. Let's look at the data. Did that person who's the product owner made a just decision? If they didn't make a right decision, let's correct that individuals. So they didn't use those kind of like terms as defined in Scrum Guide, but a lot of essence of it is there, and I think they get it, they understand it, right?
Yes. So I know you. The next question, or maybe the next thought that at this point of time I believe you have certainly answered it in a certain way, but I would still like to go ahead and ask this as like, uh, in the journey, obviously, when we plan of trying to have the transformations in agile, or to say so, do you think that the practitioners, they are the one to make the decision about which framework to use? Or maybe my question is, if we're planning to have a transformation on our agile journey, should we go blank saying that we will not, let's not decide about the framework, maybe we'll decide later, but let's start with our journey on agile?
Yes, I have done two different approaches, and I think both are legit questions. I think in some contexts, in some organization, they want to have a clear idea, and sometimes it's not necessarily bad, because they want to know how much should I, as a CEO or the senior leader in the company, invest in this, right? Who will be transformed? Who will be affected? So sometimes in some organization, having that clear picture helps. Sometimes, like, not too much also is a good approach. Like, it's a middle ground. Maybe like it's not at a scaled level, maybe at a contained small level, and then you start experimenting and it grows itself. But it can be like in a most basic approach. I would say let's make a small change every 2 weeks or every month, and let's see how it goes, and then everything will fall into place. That's good also. I think there is
So
no
basically,
right or wrong. I think in some cases you also need to understand the culture inside the organization. What thought process do they embrace? And I don't necessarily see it wrong if we start with like large scales. Maybe they want to have a helicopter view of it, because in some contexts, I know it's not perfect in the beginning, but in some contexts, this decision is like a 5 years decision, like transformation. And sometimes they have another boss, even though they're the CEO of a company, but they have like a regional CEO and an HQ CEO. So they have another boss. You thought they're the highest in the company, but there's other people a higher level up in the company. So if you understand like their position and not be judgmental, I think it's okay sometimes, as long as you assist them like when they going towards the wrong direction, like you give them a nudge, right? Hey, what do you think about these decisions? Do you think it was right? Shall we roll back, or shall we do it differently, because this is what the data shows?
wow. So basically, what we are trying to say is, I mean, you need not go with your preconceived notion whether you want to call it a particular framework, or you want to put a finger saying that this is what we are trying to do. But depending upon what kind of customers or the client that we are dealing with, when I say client or the customer, the organizational people, when depending upon their nature of culture, or maybe basically, if they want to know what is the clear path that would look ahead, is when we should be giving out the details. If they are, say, if they don't want to get into that level of information, then it's okay. I mean, don't put any finger saying that this is what it is, or this is what that is. maybe you can go ahead with whatever we are doing and that is working for them. And also another point that also resonated is that try to implement that in the pockets and just see how it works and what are the outcomes that we are trying to gain, and maybe then showcase that as a success story and then move on. Because when we are dealing at an enterprise level, obviously, as you rightly mentioned, we are dealing with CEOs and their bosses, right? So they just don't want something just shown on a paper or verbally. They would want to actually see the results. So maybe implementing in the pockets and then show them as a success stories would help them.
Yes, and not only we're dealing with CEOs or senior leaders, we're actually dealing with two sides in the conundrum, because at the bottom, people's like way of work will be affected also. If they're not seeing this is beneficial for them, they may resist. And if they resist, the process may take longer than it should. So we're balancing this too, because it might, for example, it's easy just to focus on one side and make one side happy, but making both sides are getting what they need is also important if we want this to be successful. Yes, doing in small pockets is one approach, but I have also worked with a large multinational company where the leader said, if this is going to be painful, let's do it all at once. And surprisingly, it works. But the senior leaders need to have courage to do that, right? They said, like, why do we do it incrementally, like in small pockets, if we know it's going to be painful? Like, just make the pain all at once, and then afterwards we have no pain anymore. So yeah, it's really interesting. You need to probe the organization culture. Like doing it in small pockets sometimes work, but sometimes doing it in big bang can also work.
Wow. So this brought me to two questions. So one is, how do we empower our people? Obviously, when they are resisting to this, right? So how do we empower to take more accountability for performance and truly embed customer centricity? And then second is maybe speaking about leaders, right? So leadership support is vital for bringing this change, right? So what specific behavior or traits should leaders exhibit to foster an agile culture and encourage experimentation in large enterprises?
Yes. From my observation, this may be case by case, but in cases that I've been in, the people does not resist with the approaches. They usually resist with how contradictory is the measurement that's applied for them. So I'm going to be like practical and specific. For example, if we want the people to focus on customer centricity, then their measurement, their KPI shouldn't be completing as many projects as possible in 1 year. I've worked with a bank who measure like the performance of their people by the number of projects completed in 1 year. But then on the other hand, they want their people to focus on the customer, to be customer oriented. Now, those looks like a rhetoric because people do not really engage in that rhetorics of customer centricity. They trust more about how they are being measured, right? Or if you want people to collaborate, then don't put in measurement that makes people fight against each other. I've worked with an organization where the procurement department is measured by how efficient the tender they accepted. And quite often that means like the cheapest options. And then those measurement conflict with the measurement of the product owner. In this case, so the product owner is being measured by ROI, the value of the product. And it conflicts because oftentimes the product owner complain, I don't have the best talent to realize my visions. Now I'm being held accountable for the value of the product, but then I'm getting like low quality low quality suppliers that doesn't help me to realize that visions. I would say start with that first, and I think from my personal opinion, you don't really need to broadcast that our company is moving to customer centricity. If people see how they're being measured is aligned with that, they will believe that we are customer oriented. So I would say start with that first, like put in like measurements that's really aligned and does not make people fight against each other, or measurement that is contradictory to what you wish to have. In fact, even like in some cases, I'm still having this kind of conversation. How should we measure the developers in the Scrum team, for example? And whenever I said value, they disagree. No, it can't be value because that's the product owner's measurements. It should be by number of Jira tickets that's completed. But then they can deliver lots of Jira tickets that's not necessarily valuable in the product owner's view, right? Even in a small scope, there's still that contradictory measurements, right? And I said, no wonder you're not getting what you want. You're the one who's putting contradiction in how you measure your people.
Yes. And also there's one important thing that I could now realize is like if we are planning, or if we are maybe our focus is maybe being more agile over here, and your success would determine or would depend on what are the metrics that you have put in place to validate those outcomes. If you pick some metrics which are not helping, obviously your success would be challenged over here in your transformation journey.
Yes, in fact, we need to kind of look at holistically and map it out, like organization wide. If we measure, let's say, sales by the number of clients, will that impact, let's say, the IT people? How will the IT people I think you can create that kind of mapping if you want. If we measure procurement by efficiency, by saving costs or getting the cheapest supplier, how will that impact like this person? Like this is what I mean by enterprise agility, looking at it holistically rather than one, because otherwise you may get a suboptimal result. It may look fast or agile in one department, but then the other department are not moving like as agile as you want it to be.
Absolutely true. And now I also understand while the transformation journey, the leadership support is very crucial, and as we say, like leaders are the one who should be leading the entire thing as with an example. So what specific behaviors or traits should leaders have to foster an agile culture first, and also encourage experimentation in large enterprises? What are your thoughts on?
Yes, one thing that I acknowledge first and foremost, as many leaders, especially senior leaders, they're smart people. They get there because of their effort, because of their hard work. That's why in some like a multinational company, quite often they're selected by the board of directors because of something. But I have found sometimes their intelligence is what's blocking the organization to move forward, because then there are bias. Many leaders have told me this is how I've been doing it and it was successful, right? So I think having the courage, whoever who introduced change in the organization needs to have a courage to say, okay, let's try it out, but don't wait too long for your initiative, for your idea, and bring them up that data. And from my personal observation, because they're smart people and if they're quite logical and the data you present makes sense to them, they will engage. So going back to your questions, I think the most important character or attitude you need to have is to be open. I'm not sure if we have the time, but I usually like to present to leaders about the ladder of inference. This is a work by Chris Argyris. Basically, let me grab some maybe picture, some random picture.
Sure.
Again, yeah. So something like this, the ladder of inference. So at the very ground level, we select data, we interpret the data, we make meanings out of it, and a lot of times we interpret data based on the culture where we grew up, right? So I usually like to use an analogy for this. When I was in primary school, my mom always told me, don't make sounds with your mouth when you are at the dining table, right? Like close your mouth, make sure you don't make any noise. And I grew up with that perception that whenever I see someone make a sound with their mouth when they are eating at the dining table, I judge them as being impolite. But then something happened in my life when I went to Japan, when I went to a ramen bar, because I really love ramen. Like the majority of people who were at a ramen bar, they were slurping when they ate ramen. So I was surprised and I immediately became judgmental. And I said, wow, the Japanese may be impolite. Like, don't they know how the etiquette in dining table? Until my friend said, that's actually a form of appreciation to the chef who already made the ramen, right? Oftentimes, we interpret the data based on what we see. If we keep on seeing the same thing over and over again, so basically what Chris Argyris said, that we embrace that as the absolute truth of the universe until maybe we experience something else, maybe our perception change. And interestingly, at the top of the ladder, Chris Argyris said, oftentimes, this is what bias really means, right? So oftentimes, our bias drives us to select any data or any information that will strengthen our bias. So if it does not align with our bias, we oftentimes neglect it. We discard that idea, which may be a good idea. So I like to share this with senior leaders, right? I think if they have that openness and like, if we, the change leader, whoever introduced this company, emphasize that to the senior leaders, and once you introduce it to them, you can reuse it in the future. Hey, are we bringing bias? Are we bringing assumptions here? We're in a better place. So I would say having that openness, not tying it to our bias, and for some leaders, this might be uncomfortable. Because let's say they have formed those kind of intellectuality, those kind of intelligence for, let's say, 20 to 30 years. And now they have to let that go. It's uncomfortable. And I think the next step is to be with them, to acknowledge those uncomfort, right? If we are a change leader, we are there with them and acknowledge those uncomfort. There's actually another one that I like to share, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yes, please. Please share.
besides that, why did I say that we need to acknowledge their uncomfortness? Right. So, right. So this is the work of Virginia Satir. She is a therapist, so she's not from Agile space. She's a therapist. There was a lot of book, but interestingly, a lot of book was not written by her. It was written by someone who was working with her. So there's 5 phases of change according to her. So her work are mainly helping people who's undergone a therapy, who might have a bad experience in the past. And in her book, she talked about how, let's say, someone who live in a abusive family, and now like you try to make a change for them. So there is a dip here in the change process, and she called that as a chaotic process, right? Before we can reach the top, like that's the new individual, or in the case of enterprise agility, this is the new organization, right? So it's really important for the transformation agent to acknowledge this third phase, the dip, and acknowledge that this is uncomfortable, because now you're letting go everything that you have built up for the past 20 or 30 years. And if we embrace that, based on my personal experience, they will be more appreciative, because we're not getting into dogmatic debate, being right or wrong. Like, you're acknowledging their uncomfort, and then you tell about bias. These are the 2 tools that I like to use often when working with senior leaders.
Wow, those are amazing tools, and I literally loved the example that you gave from your childhood days. That story that you told, that is so relatable. I mean, I so many things came into my mind about the biases that I had, that I have seen from since childhood, that I have been maybe subconsciously taught, not like deliberately, but I learned subconsciously with the things that I have been seeing. And now when I come to this stage in my life, and now I feel that why did I do that, why did I judge someone like that, and that requires so much of introspection, right? I mean, when we are dealing with people, obviously first we need, instead of teaching them, first we need to introspect ourselves, that as in how are we going to change ourselves, and then we can teach others. I mean, now imagine if we are going to trying to change leaders, or the way they are thinking, or they are doing. It takes another level of commitment, another level of say learning or teaching, right? I mean, those tools literally would help. And the second one, the change curve, right? I mean, I did this cal certification few months back, I mean 2 to 3 months back, and this was exactly what was taught in our class. So I'm glad that this came up again, and it is so important for us to understand the change curve that we go through, right? I mean, it doesn't happen in a day, or maybe in a overnight, right? It takes a lot of understanding and so many emotions that we go through, and then only we reach to where we want to reach, right? And this is not an overnight thing.
Yes, I agree. In fact, once like Scrum Master or Agile Coaches, like you said, like putting effort to acknowledge people's uncomfortness, like they have something to do now. They have a lot of work to do, because it's quite common. I hear people, Agile Coach or Scrum Master, what do they do all day? Like it's useless. And sometimes people will be able to see that, right? You're working on it.
Yes. Also, just to add, I think the underlying emotion or behind that is obviously the fear that one goes through. And I think if we start acknowledging it, or if we start saying okay to be in that emotion, but let's see how we can move from here on, that makes people more comfortable, I believe.
Yes. That acknowledgement I've learned that it's so important, and people will realize you're not pushing your personal agenda. Like you are genuine about leading the company to be better. And yeah, you're right. That acknowledgement is quite powerful.
Okay. Yeah, and I think uh, the other thing that I would like to check is obviously, what do you think of the characteristics one, or maybe an organization when they need to have in terms of their agile journey? Would you like to talk about a few of those characteristics?
The characteristic, um, I think the first one that I personally think is important is embrace learning and also unlearning. I found that learning is easier, but it's unlearning that is difficult. I experienced that during COVID. Actually, I, you can call me conservative, but I like to be in person with people. If I facilitate or if I'm doing coaching or training, I like to be amongst people. And in March, April, and May 2020, I was in denial. I told myself this will be over soon. This is only temporary. No, there's no way I'm going to embrace remote working or work from home. No, this is not how human beings are designed. But then maybe because I'm also pressured like to survive and provide food on the table for my family, I gotta do something. I start embracing it. Even me, I have that attitude in the beginning, but from that experience, I have learned that nothing is permanent. Things come and go. I think if we are to attach to something, we may be irrelevant. So learning and unlearning, I would say, is the first thing. Oftentimes, organization can learn or embrace learning easily, but unlearning is difficult because you're literally would be in denial. You would like defend like your belief. No. This is what I know. It has worked, even though now it doesn't work because now the world has changed. The second one I would say is collaborations with people, and be curious, right? I think that's also related with learning. I think it starts from being curious. If you're curious, I found that you're less judgmental, and you're actually learning more because you're curious. Hey, what can I learn from this? Hey, is there something interesting from here? So curiosity, I would say, is the second character. Third one, I would say, this is difficult. What would be the third characteristic? I would say integrity. And I think, pardon? I think integrity is really emphasized in the Agile community. But actually, the first thing that got me interested with Scrum specifically is when Ken Schwaber, I attended his class, and he was actually talking about the definition of done. How you should like focus on quality. It's better to reduce the scope of work rather than reducing the definition of done. And then somehow he just segued it to people may hate you for doing the right thing, but at least you have done the right thing. And that was so powerful to me because when I flash back, I grew up with that kind of teachings from my dad, because my dad is a civil servant, And I'm not going to share which society I grew up in, so people, especially not on camera, so people don't make like a judgment about it. But if I can say, like, specifically the society where I grew up in, because my dad is a civil servant, he works for the government, but the society that I grew up in is so corrupted, and he lived with integrity. He doesn't want to be involved in corruption, but then he sacrificed his career. He couldn't go up in the career ladder in the government organization structure as fast as his friend. And one thing that he kept on saying to me, like every time he dropped me to school, like every morning, he said, we may not be as rich as other civil servants or like other kids whose parents are civil servants, but he told me that at least that every cent that I feed you with, it's with an honesty. And I grew up with those kind of teachings. So when Ken told me that, it kind of awakened me. Wow, this is so powerful. How come we rarely talk about integrity? And I think in Scrum, the term is transparency, right? And then there is openness. We really emphasize that. And I think that can go a long way for many organizations. People won't try to manipulate the data or reports just to make the boss happy. You will say it like it is. If there is a technical debt in the product, you will say it as it is. If you think it's not doable, even though it may risk your job, then do that, right? And I personally think there is greater joy for doing the right thing, even though it may land you at a different place. Let's say you get fired for saying the right thing, but at least like you feel proud. And I think you can tell that to the future generations, right? What you've done. So going back to your questions, I think that's the 3 characteristics that I think is important: learning and unlearning. And then second is be curious. And third is have integrity.
Integrity, yes. And also just to add to the third point about the integrity part, I mean, it maybe you as an individual, you might be doing everything right, but as a system, the system itself is not supporting to that right behavior. So maybe that exactly I could relate to the example that you shared about your father, right? I mean, that exactly is what I could relate to.
Yes, which is interesting. I think my dad has a vision. Like, I really respect him because maybe he's not looking only at himself. Maybe he's looking like a bigger picture, like in this case, the future generation, because now I live with that integrity and now I get to teach it again to my kids, right? So maybe he's not that kind of short term, even though like 20, 30 years is considered long term, but maybe he's looking like in a bigger perspective.
Okay. Yes, Vivek, please go ahead. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that is what we should, as a people practicing Scrum or maybe Agile, to say that we should be the people challenging the status quo. I think that is where we should put across, bring everyone's thought, saying that, okay, maybe this is what we need to change to make everyone's life much more better or easier, is what I believe. That is one of the core things that we should be looking at for.
Yes. I think, like you said, focusing on the essence of it can take you a long way. Even like as a Scrum Master, I don't really like to preach about what the Scrum Master like day-to-day job is. But actually, there's one thing that's really powerful in Scrum that describes the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is described as a serving leader, a leader who serves. I was actually curious, why does that need to be emphasized? Maybe because it's important. And interestingly, when I looked at other like methods, really it emphasized leadership. And I think that is so powerful. I know it might sound foreign, or some people debate about it, but I believe in that. I think that's why we are chosen as leaders, because we have authority. But now, how do we use that authority, right? Do we use that authority to make people's life worse, or do we use that authority to make people's life better? They become more productive, they enjoy working in the company, they have pride with their product, right? That's the essence. And when I look around, that aspect is really rarely emphasized. I do agree with you. Like, if we look at like the core of specifically Scrum, there's a lot of nuggets there. There's a lot of quote unquote life principles in there, to be honest.
Correct.
I discovered that quite often. Yeah.
I think we only discover these nuggets, as you mentioned, about the lessons, right? Only when we go deeper or go past this mechanical application of Scrum framework, and when we actually try to maybe understand the deeper scheme of things, is when we find these life lessons, and which I think most of the people don't understand these days, because they obviously are only revolving around the mechanics, or maybe revolving around the certification point of doing Scrum, right? So if we go past these things, is when we try to understand these life lessons.
Yes. The common question that I get, and I mentioned it earlier, what happens when the Scrum Master, let's say, already have a self-managing team? And then, like, I like to take a step back, and when you embrace that serving leader, there's actually still a lot of things to do, and don't just focus on the team. In fact, that's not the end goal. The end goal is not to make your team self-manage. I think that is the start. There's bigger things that you need to do as a serving leader. And I agree with you. Sometimes I spend more time with leaders to emphasize this, like, how can you be a leader that lead by serving, be a role model, not just speaking about rhetorics, integrity, you say it like it is, and people will trust you more as a leader.
And the last thing, maybe we have touched upon it throughout the conversation. Maybe if we want to just put it out for our audiences. So maybe if you want to give some tips or advice for, say, beginner agile practitioners, be it a Scrum Master or Agile Coaches, or maybe if they want to call themselves or as consultants or whoever it is, any advice that you would like to give to them who are stepping into this making a difference across the enterprise, or maybe bringing that agility across the enterprise?
Yes, I think my advice would be quite fundamental. First, why do you want to do it? Because if you don't know your why, and this is related with Simon Sinek's work, Start With Why.
Correct.
So why do you want to do? Why is that important? What impact do you want to bring? How do you want to be remembered in that space, in that organization? Because I personally think it's tiring. But if you don't have an anchor, something that you look at, like your personal visions while you're doing it, you're just going with the flow, and it's lacking essence and lacking power, and the impact that you bring may not be as powerful as it should. I personally think that once you know your why, everything else will follow. You may find out, oh, I don't have this negotiation skill to talk to the business users. Maybe I should get knowledge in that, or a training in that. And it's not related with Agile, right? oh, I don't have a good communication skill to communicate in front of senior leaders. Like I become frozen when I talk in front of senior leaders. So maybe find a training that can help you communicate better with senior leaders, understand their traits and characteristics. I think starting with that, it's much more powerful. I use this tool called Notion. I'm not sure if you heard of it. So I have my personal backlog. So whenever I discovered, oh, I didn't do well there, I screw up there, I didn't have knowledge there, so I would Google, what should I read, what video should I watch, or what training should I attend. So even like the training that I attend becomes fit for purpose to fit my gap in bringing change inside the organization. So it's not just about, like you said, collecting certification, but I want to have a knowledge so I can bring impact in the company that I work in. Yeah. So that would be it.
Wow.
I think that's a lot of already, like it can branch out. You can have a lot more your personal backlog. I know that I use Notion. It's really nice. It's a simple like a to-do list. So I didn't have knowledge here. I screw up here, right? And I think acknowledging that you screw up is also important because then you won't have so much pride. I think you will be more humble, like to be open with things that can grow you.
Wow, that was an amazing advice to all the Agile practitioners. And thank you so much, Joshua, for doing this. And we love the candid conversation that we had, and so much of knowledge and insights that you brought into this conversation. And definitely, it kind of strokes so many questions already, but to cover it in a single podcast would be difficult. So we would definitely want you to be back to
Depend
have
on your
such a
audience,
deeper
right?
conversations.
Depends on your
No,
audience.
I'm sure
The audience
people
may
would
say,
love to.
don't invite Joshua again.
No.
We don't like him.
Not at all, not at all. People would love to listen to you and watch you and continue doing what you do with your channels. And it is literally good to see a different take on this entire agile scheme of things. Especially love the characters that you play in your videos. That's amazing. So please continue doing what you do and spread knowledge. And as I mentioned, it was lovely having a candid conversation with you. I feel that life has come full circle, having a conversation with you, from watching your videos to having you on our podcast. It's been a great honor and pleasure to us. So thank you so much for coming over and doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I think I sent you a message why I want to do it once I cleared my backlog.
Yes.
Because I had a presentation in Poland, and I'm not really good in staying focused. So I would like to clear that out first, and then immediately after I came back, I signed up for this. So yeah, I'm sorry if it's taking too long.
No, not at all. I really appreciate that. Honestly, when you messaged yourself, I was just telling Vivek about this, that I didn't expect a message from you. And the thing is, you asked for my calendar so that you can block the time. I was like, no ways, I cannot do that. I cannot share my calendar and ask you to block. I would be available whenever you would say. So thank you so much for kind of keeping that in mind and coming back to check whether we are okay to do this. So it shows the humility and the kind of person you are. So thank you so much, Joshua, for doing this. We really love this conversation.
Thank you. It was a good conversation. Like you said, we can go on forever talking about this. But yes, it was an enjoyable conversation. Thank you for having me. For your audience, also something they need to know about, like all of, I think mainly the Scrum Master in Black and Agile Comedy channel. That's how I externalize my frustration. I shared that when I
Amazing.
was in Poland. Like whenever I'm frustrated, I try to like engage people. They don't get it, so I make videos, and I found that it's more productive that way. Yes, you are
Yes.
ranting, but like it surprises me that a lot of people, some people found it funny for the comedy channel. The Scrum Master in Black people found it insightful, because my intention was like I'm just releasing my stress, and I didn't realize that it gave a lot of impact. So yes, thank you for discovering me.
That's that is a good way to do that, to release your stress, Joshua. And then again, again, I would also like to thank you. This has been an amazing conversation. And as you say in most of your videos at the start of the video, awesome people. I would say you have been an awesome guest for us, and really enjoyed having this conversation with you. Really loved it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for watching this episode patiently till the end. We hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll meet you again in the next episode. Till then, if you like a podcast show, then do like, share, subscribe, and let us know your feedback in the comment section. You can also listen to the episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible. Thank you.